Hello there, folks. My name is Spoonks, and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how each movie did. And before we get started, I just want to say I hope you all had a safe and happy Halloween this year. I hope you all got a ton of candy, ate well, dressed up in the best costumes you could afford and made, and just spent a lot of fun times with your loved ones. Just wanted to get that out of the way since this was the weekend before Halloween. So with that out of the way, let's officially get started. Number 5 was Halloween Ends, making $4 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $60 million and a worldwide total of $94 million. So, while yes, this was definitely a better weekend for the film in terms of holds, it only dipped 49% from last weekend, which I think they were more than grateful to see that hold for this movie, especially with how disastrous the previous weekend drop-off was. And the fact of the matter is, this movie is still a big hit. It has doubled its $30 million budget and tripled it worldwide. It should get to $100 million worldwide as well. This movie is doing well. However, there is no sugarcoating it. This movie is a pretty big disappointment. I don't think it's gonna make as much as the previous film, and definitely not the 2018 Halloween. That's already out of the question. The fact of the matter is, this movie has just failed to capture an audience. It seemed that many people either just did not want to see this movie or chose to watch it at home, whether it be on Peacock or other methods, if you know what I mean. And while it might have gotten a boost this weekend because it was the weekend before Halloween, and well, this is pretty much the biggest Halloween film of the year, both figuratively and literally, we all know what's going to happen this weekend. Halloween is over, no one is in the spooky season spirit anymore, and we're all going to move on to the other holiday later this year. So this movie is going to take another big drop off, and it'll probably be out of the top 5 very soon, which sucks, as this is pretty much the quote-unquote finale, because I'm sure they're probably going to reboot this again, but I'm sure they wanted this to do better than it has, and it just really didn't. So at least it's still a hit. It's still tripled its $30 million budget, but this was still an overall disappointing turnout for Halloween Ends. Number 4 was Smile, making $5.4 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $92 million and a worldwide total of $187 million. On the complete opposite side of what Halloween Ends is doing, Smile continues to do really well, as it actually had the best hold out of any of the movies in the top 5, dropping 36%, which is outstanding. It pushed its domestic total over the $90 million range, and as well as over the entire domestic run of The Black Phone to become the second highest grossing horror film of the year. Job well done. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to get to Nope's domestic total. It just seems something that's so close yet so far, a bit of a reach if you ask me. So while I don't think it's going to surpass Nope domestically, it has already surpassed it worldwide to become the highest grossing horror film of the year. No joke. This movie was able to do that, and I am just beyond thrilled to see that this little horror film about smiling, of all things, was apparently so terrifying and creepy that it ended up capturing the hearts of audiences, ? I don't know how to phrase these things for horror films, I'm sorry, but it was able to received so much acclaim from audiences that it was able to receive this milestone. Job well done. And it doesn't look like this will be the end of the milestones for the movie either. It's just $8 million away from the $100 million milestone. I think it's definitely going to do that very soon. And there could be a possibility of it surpassing 200 million worldwide. Don't think it's a definite, but given the numbers, I think there is a possibility it could get to that milestone. And overall, Smile continues to just become the biggest box office surprise of the past couple months. However, it is still in the same predicament as Halloween Ends. It's no longer Halloween. No one wants to be scared anymore or get into the spooky season spirit anymore, sadly. So I do feel like we're going to start seeing those drop-offs we were expecting this movie to suffer from initially. But even if so, that probably wouldn't really amount to much. I mean, this movie has already been so successful enough that if it's going to drop off this late into the game as big as how many people are expecting it to, then it really shows how successful this movie has. It won't even leave a huge blemish on the film's run overall. So yeah, Smile is still doing incredibly well. I look forward to seeing where it goes for here, but yeah, job well done indeed. Number 3 was Pray for the Devil, opening with $7.1 million domestically and $7.8 million worldwide. So last week when I was talking about my predictions for this movie, I didn't have the highest of expectations, and I'll be honest, this movie slightly exceeded them, and I cannot put any more emphasis on the word slightly in that statement. These numbers aren't really the best. They're not groundbreaking by any means, but in all honesty, I wasn't expecting this movie to get over 5 million, so at least there's that. Yay! But regardless, yeah, this movie isn't really doing all that well. These numbers aren't the most impressive as of late. And while I'm certain this movie wasn't all that expensive, I mean, in all honesty, there could probably be a chance where the film eventually doubles the budget by probably this week, give or take, by how cheap most horror films are made on nowadays. These numbers aren't still anything to compare with like Smile or even Halloween Ends. I doubt this movie is going to last very long in the top 5, as once again, another horror movie coming out the weekend before Halloween, and unfortunately Halloween is over, so don't think too many people are going to be in the mood to watch this, especially with the audience reception. Reviews from critics are god awful, but audience reactions are also rather mixed. It got a C+ on CinemaScore, and I have a feeling that this will play out much more similar to The Invitation than Barbarian, if you know what I mean. So yeah, overall, not too impressed here. It exceeded my expectations a little bit, and even with that, that's not really saying much. Number 2 was Ticket to Paradise, making $9.8 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $33 million and a worldwide total of $119 million. So this movie continues to do pretty well overall. It dropped just 40%, which is a very good hold, showing that word of mouth is helping this movie out a lot, and the fact that it's also very solid counter programming. I mean, you could either see a bunch of horror films or a big blockbuster that we'll get to in a moment, or just a goofy little romantic comedy. And it's nice to see a romantic comedy doing as well as this movie is right now, as they've been kind of lacking as of late, outside of The Lost City, of course. But yeah, this movie is showing promise. It could leg out and do about as well domestically, at least, as The Woman King, which would be very good, as the film apparently did not cost $36 million. It was updated to $60 million, and the film's already halfway there domestically. And worldwide, not only did this movie surpass the $100 million milestone, which is absolutely insane, but at the time of this recording, the film is just $1 million away from the doubling point. And given the time this video will come out, I see no reason why it won't surpass that, meaning my recording right now is already outdated, so sorry about that. But yeah, this film is just already proving itself to be a massive hit right now. It's looking like it's going to be in the profitable range, and just one of the bigger surprises of the late fall right now. Again, Ticket to Paradise, it not only has surpassed $100 million worldwide and doubled its budget, but this also means that it is a much more successful movie than Halloween Ends in regards to how much money it has made overall, not for like the doubling the budget. But yeah, if you were to tell me this like earlier this month, I would have called you crazy, yet here we are. So yeah, overall, Ticket to Paradise still doing pretty well. We'll see how it does for the rest of the month and the rest of its theatrical run. But yeah, things are looking pretty good for the film. And finally, let's end the video off with the number one movie of the weekend, which was once again Black Adam, making $27 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $110 million and a worldwide total of $250 million. So while the film didn't plummet like other superhero films from this year, like Doctor Strange, Morbius, and Thor: Love and Thunder, it didn't quite have a stronger hold like The Batman from earlier this year. It dipped 59%, which is better than 60, but still a bit concerning, especially in its second weekend and with how impressive it was doing in the daily numbers. I was honestly quite impressed with how well it was doing over the week, but clearly not. I do believe that word of mouth isn't as strong as it should be. Maybe the B+ cinema score was a sign for things to come for this movie. It seems like audiences are liking this movie but not loving it, which was probably why the second weekend wasn't as great as it was. And also it was the weekend before Halloween, and I'm sure a lot more people were spending time with loved ones, partying. So while this isn't like a disaster like Halloween Ends or even Morbius, which was another big disaster, this is definitely cause for concern, as it really only has this week left before it not only faces up against its biggest competition, but it also faces quite possibly the biggest film releasing in theaters probably since Thor: Love and Thunder, or maybe even Top Gun: Maverick, given how strong it does. But more on that in another box office chat video. So yeah, while this isn't like too bad, it falls in line with like other comic book movies in their second weekend. But yeah, it's definitely going to need a lot more help this weekend than it will for the rest of its theatrical run. It's still all right. I mean, it's still surpassed 200 million worldwide. It should get to the doubling point at some point. I think it'll be later rather than sooner, but it'll still get to the doubling point of its $195 million budget. And it is also the 14th film of the year to surpass 100 million domestically, which coincidentally is the amount of films that surpassed 100 million domestically last year, which shows a good sign of theatrical recovery and how strong movies are doing right now in the theaters. So there's something to end on a positive note right there. But yeah, still a bit concerning given circumstances. So while Black Adam is not in danger yet, it might need some help. And those were the top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And this weekend we actually do have one new wide release, that being One Piece Film Red. That's right, folks. It's yet another film based off of a beloved anime that is getting a feature film adaptation that just comes out of nowhere on a week that seemed like there wasn't going to be anything coming out. I literally just found this out about like a week ago. And so here I am discussing it, but I am not going to let past mistakes ruin my chances for predictions, as I do think this will not be an exception to the previous entries in these anime feature films, that being that they always crush it and they always dominate and surprise on their opening weekends. I think we're going to see something very surprising and impressive with these numbers, especially with a film based off of One Piece, one of the longest running anime of all time and one of the most beloved anime as well. So yeah, I definitely think we're going to see some pretty solid numbers that might even rival Black Adam's numbers. I don't think it's going to surpass it domestically and overtake it to become the #1 movie in America, but I do think it'll be stiff competition for Black Adam. However, if there's one thing that is almost always true with these movies, it is the fact that while their opening weekends are strong, the weekends after are not. They are almost always very front loaded, and the weekend after they plummet and are never seen ever again. And I do feel like this movie is going to suffer from that, especially with the movie that's coming out the week after One Piece comes out. There's no way this movie doesn't have a huge drop off for that. But in regards to its opening weekend, I think we're going to see some solid numbers, something that really impresses and might even rival Black Adam's numbers this weekend. But we'll see how well this movie truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied? Unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.